Now in HIV patients we use seborrheic, we see seborrheic eczema, and dermatitis is one of the common manifestations in the HIV positive individual. Whereas nummular eczematous dermatitis, you have got this kind of a ring-like lesion, and it can resemble the psoriasis or a ringworm. It is not seen in the patients with HIV, is what need to be remembered. Can you tell me one more risk factor for the seborrheic dermatosis, doctor? Parkinson's and HIV positive individuals, they all have got a predilection for this. Then clofazimine is the one that lead to pigmentation. Dapsone is the one which predisposes to hemolysis, is what need to be remembered. Erythrasma is Corynebacterium minucitum is the one which is responsible, and there is a coral red color fluorescence on the wood slab. Where do you have satellite lesions, doctor? There are small hypopigmented patches surrounding a central patch which is seen in the borderline leprosy, is what need to be basically remembered. In early post-operative period we see what? Sinus tachycardia, a benign ECG finding otherwise, is the most common arrhythmia you find in the post-operative period. The benzocaine sensitivity can lead to contact dermatitis as a very important reaction. Allodynia is a painful response to a otherwise non-painful stimulus, is called as the allodynia. Now if you do the interscalene brachial plexus block, it can lead to the development of injury to the cervical sympathetic plexus, which can lead to development of the Horner's syndrome. One of the causes is interscalene brachial plexus block. What is EMLA? It is a lidocaine, prilocaine in a eutectic mixture in equal quantities. Where do you use the EMLA, doctor? Suppose if there is an intravenous injection pain, injection site pain, if it is there, EMLA can very much be used as a soothing agent, is what has to be remembered. General anesthesia was done and he became rigid, febrile, tachycardia, tachypnea. It is all the malignant hyperthermia which need to be managed by giving the dantrolene, is the management of choice. Alzheimer's is the most common cause of the dementia. Where do you see Mercedes-Benz sign? First you must know how does a Mercedes-Benz car, insignia basically looks like. This is the normal liver, doctor. This is the normal gallbladder. Don't be angry on me that gallbladder is standing straight. So the biology textbooks say it will be falling down below the liver, right? But in CT you see it upside right. Now the question is, in a normal gallbladder there are no lucencies. Are there any? No. But here if you see there are two lucencies. Maybe this radiologist thought in my life I will never buy the Mercedes, or maybe his thoughts are on earning Mercedes, but radiology job is not giving that kind of money. So do you think becoming postgraduate gives us a lot of money after post-graduation? 1 in 10 will be very successful, awfully stinkingly successful, but a good number finally will identify. If you take economics of earning versus practicing as a doctor, it is not a very remunerative job for everyone. Once more there comes how leader you are, how corporate you are, how entrepreneurial, how commercial you are, so many factors where we don't have training in medical school. So anyway, so this is how finding the lucencies in the gallbladder, which will give the similarity to that of the Mercedes-Benz car's insignia, is called Erin Gallstone Mercedes-Benz sign. Now how on MRI T1 images look and T2 images look? T1 is a short fast pulse that makes the fat tissue appear bright and CSF appear dark. T2 CSF will appear bright and the surrounding areas basically look relatively darker, but fat is the one which looks hyper intense both on T1 and also the T2 is what need to be basically remembered. Now in advanced lung cancer, don't forget to not only image lungs but also abdomen. Why? Because in abdomen you have the kidneys, above the kidneys you have got a adrenal, adrenal can home a metastasis. So adrenal metastasis should always be, you can see this is the kidney, this is the adrenal, in the adrenal you can see the metastasis, and the metastasis identification of it is important whenever the patient has got a lung cancer. What is a continuous diaphragm sign? Very simple. If you take a normal X-ray, doctor, can you see the entire diaphragm contour on X-ray? You don't. Why? Because the cardiac shadow will be overlapping that of the diaphragmatic shadow. So basically a continuous diaphragm sign means if there is any amount of the pneumomediastinum, actually option should be pneumomediastinum rather than pneumoperitoneum. In pneumomediastinum, the air will cause the diaphragm to become visible along its entirety, which is called the continuous diaphragm sign of the pneumomediastinum. And if you take the lateral radiograph, you can see the presence of the lucency of the air retrocardiac location because of the pneumomediastinum is what need to be remembered. Now HRCT is not used for, what was the options answer given in the key? Answer was C was given. Okay, good. So it is not in the lung abscess. So this is how the nitrofurantoin can induce interstitial lung disease, and HRCT can wonderfully delineate it. And this is how the lung abscess, you can see what do you use? Do you use CECT or plain CT or HRCT for lung abscess? Contrast enhanced CT. Why? Lung abscess is an inflammatory lesion. Any inflammatory lesion has an increased vascularity, and that will cause the contrast of the CECT to pool around the abscess cavity, making the abscess a prominent appearance. So it is the contrast enhanced CT which is a very good marker of the depiction of the lung abscess is what need to be remembered. And you can see a large cavitary lesion and a thick wall and a smooth inner margin. These are all the classical features, and surrounding lung is having inflammatory reaction. They all can be appreciated on the CECT. Pultos hemorrhages are typically seen in the case of the drowning. Davidson body, Barr body, they are all important for the sex determination. 320 IPC talks about Grievous hurt, which includes emasculation of the face, which can occur with a nasal bone fracture, hence it can come under the section 320. Even abrasion over the face also can lead to disfiguring of the face, right? So that way A also becomes a possible. What was the answer given? B for boy, right? Okay. So I still consider that way A and B should be the equally good. I mean, how well the face abraded also is important. I mean, did it lead to disfiguring or not? Maybe. Once more you need to call a beautician to the courtroom. You may claim that my face is disfigured, and the accused will say that you are already disfigured. I did not further disfigure you, you are originally like that, my abrasion probably beautified you. So beautician will decide that anyway. Pink's disease is what? Mercury poisoning, you have the Pink's disease. Now for the hormone replacement therapy post-menopausally, what are the relative? Absolute contraindications, you must be sure. Undiagnosed vaginal bleeding, severe liver disease, pregnancy, coronary artery disease, they are all absolute. Whereas the active gallbladder disease is a relative contraindication. There is no, I mean all the three are falling into it, right? So that is the reason, yes, option D becomes, but endometrial carcinoma, if it is there, you still give hormone replacement therapy, or do you want to do a hysterectomy? That becomes a priority. Maybe the choice D should be, I mean, is just picked up in order to fill the gap. But still option D becomes, it is not in the mentioned choices, hence it becomes the answer. Now complete hydatiform mole has got the entire placenta involvement. There is no fetus. That is how you describe it as complete. In polycystic ovarian disease, it can have a familial tendency, hyperinsulinemia and abnormal glucose tolerance test. What is trachelectomy? It is also called cervicectomy, wherein there is a surgical removal of the uterine cervix, is what you do in the case of the carcinoma of the cervix is what need to be remembered. Now let us talk about infertility and evaluation of it in the case of the male and female. We basically do all of them, but chromosomal anomalies can't be responsible for about 20%. Klinefelters you don't find that frequently among the infertile men, rather you should use the word subfertile men is what we need to basically remember. Now let us talk about ovarian tumor classification. You have epithelial, germ cell, sex cord, stromal tumors. In epithelial you have serous, mucinous, endometrioid, clear cell and transitional cell. And germ cell tumors you have York cell tumor, which is endodermal sinus tumor, which is not an epithelial tumor, rather it is a germ cell tumor, is what you have to basically remember. Strawberry vagina in trichomonas, as all of you know. Now what are the contraindications for IUCD? What was the answer given? Option? C for cat? Okay, we will kill the cat, make the boy win. So if you look at relative contraindications for the IUCD doctor, nulliparity, valvular heart disease, previous ectopic pregnancy is a relative contraindication, not a absolute contraindication. So that's the reason B becomes the answer. Whereas the malformations of the uterus, congenital, is a part of the absolute contraindication, is what I like to underscore to all of you. Bicornuate uterus is Y-shaped uterus due to the incomplete fusion of the Mullerian duct, which is otherwise called paramesonephric duct, is what need to be remembered. Congenital adrenal hyperplasia can lead to virilization of the clitoris in the case of the females and can lead to female pseudohermaphroditism, is what need to be remembered. Now what is the right time to take endometrial biopsy? It is 1 to 2 days before the onset of the menstruation, hence it becomes 20 to 22 days is what need to be remembered. Now lateral vaginal fornix, uterine vessels, Meckenroth's ligament and ureters, they are all having the relationship. Then clomiphene therapy can lead to hyperstimulation syndrome. How do you describe that, doctor? Patients will have a raised LH. They will show multiple follicles and cysts growing into the ovary. So they can present with mild symptoms like abdominal bloating. Let us say in somebody you have started clomiphene citrate, comes back to you with the hyperstimulation syndrome. How to recognize that clinically? They can present with abdominal bloating or excessive weight gain, or they can have skin or hair feeling dry. Any of these non-specific findings can be there in the hyperstimulation syndrome. And if it is very severe, it can lead to hemoconcentration, thrombosis, pleural effusion, respiratory distress. Any of them can be the presenting features of the hyperstimulation syndrome. Why you want to recognize the hyperstimulation syndrome as an infertility specialist? Don't give HCG. Generally, when do you give HCG? First you will give clomiphene citrate at around 8th day or so, and then that will be causing multiple follicles to grow. By the time it is around 14th day, 15 to 16 is the follicle size. That time you give HCG, which acts like a LH and cause the ovulation, and you will pick up the egg and then do the in vitro fertilization. That is the technique. So that 14th day HCG which you are going to administer, don't give that if the patient is showing the features of hyperstimulation syndrome as a consequence of your clomiphene treatment. So can there be any imaging by which you can, imaging modality by which you can recognize hyperstimulation in your clomiphene receiving patient? Definitely. If you happen to do the ultrasound, you can see multiple large anechoic cystic appearance inside the ovary. Bilateral ovarian cysts in a clomiphene receiving patient should make you to think about hyperstimulation, and recognition is important to prevent the, rather avoid the administration of HCG pre-ovulatory. That is an important therapeutic decision to be taken. Now what are the therapeutic and diagnostic indications for the cone biopsy is a very important discussion. Many times we discuss this topic, that CIN3 microinvasive cancer and indefinite findings on colposcopy or Pepinicola smear, they all become the diagnostic and therapeutic indications of conization. The moment there are metastases to the superficial inguinal lymph nodes, cancer is spread outside the pelvis, hence we call it as a stage 4 carcinoma of the endometrium is what need to be remembered. If the patient had an intrauterine death and following that there is a sudden development of dyspnea, you think of very important acute complication, amniotic fluid embolism is the diagnosis that you have to make. Now RH factor incompatibility, does it predispose to any conditions? Definitely. Preeclampsia, polyhydramnios, hypofibrinogenemia, postpartum hemorrhage, any of them can be are more common, rather predisposed by the RH negative mother with the RH positive fetus is what need to be remembered. Ehlers-Danlos reaction, not only in the case of ectopic pregnancy, there are lot of other conditions where you see Ehlers-Danlos, which is already given in the literature. Now spontaneous abortions can occur in anyone who has got antiphospholipid antibody syndrome, recurrent abortions will be there. Any thyroid dysfunction, any of them can be predisposing. Now if you talk about TORCH can lead to, TORCH group of infections can lead to, but doing TORCH screening in the background of history of recurrent abortions is not a justifiable as a diagnostic investigation. It is not a part of the protocol of investigation. Now whenever the organic heart disease is there, immediately after delivery there is a change in hemodynamics that will predispose to congestive heart failure leading to the development of maternal mortality. Now in macrosomia, luckily brain is not affected. Otherwise all macrosomic babies will get first rank in entrance, right? So your birth weight and your winning entrances has no relationship. You can be low birth weight, preterm, still become topper. You may be absolutely macrosomic with a VSD, but still the brain remains the same, luckily. So we need to remember that the brain growth is not affected, head circumference and BPD remain normal in a macrosomic baby is what need to be remembered. Somebody has a hydatidiform mole, all that HCG excessively produced will also have a TSH activity that predisposes to clinical and chemical hyperthyroidism is what has to be remembered. Now what is the definition of missed abortion, doctor? This is a good question, I feel. Missed abortion versus incomplete abortion. Let us debate, let us have the Nayapul ward rounds. Please remember that the missed abortion, the intrauterine pregnancy is present but is no longer developing normally, and there is an embryonic gestation in missed abortion, like an empty gestational sac, or there is a fetal demise prior to 20 weeks of gestation, you call it as a missed abortion. What is the difference between missed abortion and incomplete abortion? Look at cervical os. The cervical os is typically closed, unlike it is patent. In case of incomplete or inevitable abortion, in missed abortion it is still closed. So how do you manage it? Surgical is only a last priority. We basically do a medical evacuation of the less than 20 weeks fetus rather than doing surgical evacuation. So we do expected management, and we will be giving misoprostol 400 to 800 micrograms per vagina, and that will basically cause a medical evacuation. And with a better medical evacuation and better monitoring of the patient, the surgical care only takes a back seat is what need to be remembered. Now what is Cullen's sign, doctor? This kind of a periumbilical hemorrhage is called as Cullen's, which can be seen with acute hemorrhagic pancreatitis and blunt abdominal trauma, any abdominal aortic aneurysm if it is ruptured, or any ruptured ectopic pregnancy, any intraperitoneal bleed can lead to development of a periumbilical hemorrhage, which is called as the Cullen's sign is what need to be remembered. Braxton Hicks is found in other than pregnancy, submucous fibroid and also in hematometra, other causes for the Braxton Hicks. Now oral anticoagulants can lead to development of coumarin induced embryopathy, it is called as orofacial anomalies are quite common. We use KCl, potassium chloride, in order to do the fetal reduction in the case of the multiple pregnancy. With regard to the oligohydramnios, if you say chorangium of placenta, it is more likely to exude a lot of amniotic fluid and lead to poly rather than oligohydramnios. Now let us talk about cesarean section. What are the important contraindications? If there is a prior uterine rupture, sorry, not contra, rather indications, relative indications. Eclampsia also is an indication, relative indication for cesarean. Diabetes, cardiac disease, placenta previa, placenta abruptio, cephalopelvic disproportion, etc., etc. Now let us talk about ultrasound in pregnancy. When will the transvaginal ultrasound can be able to detect the fetal cardiac activity? It at least takes 8 weeks for the cardiac activity to become detected on the transvaginal ultrasound is what need to be remembered. Now this is a favorite question of examiner, doctor, any entrance you take. Where do you store the various vaccines? We need to remember, what do you keep in the freezer? Ice cubes, then OPV. Then the top tray you will put BCG measles, middle tray you will put DPT, TT, DT and hepatitis B, and the lower tray you will be putting diluent, etc., etc. But don't be surprised as a house surgeon when you go to community posting, you may find the nurse's bag in middle and another nurse's baby's milk bottle may be stored in the this thing, and one small McDowell whiskey bottle of the duty senior officers is staying in the lower compartment, because what we face, what we read is totally in a great disjunction. Though the Park is a beautiful book to read, but Park in practice has got is hardly practiced. That's the problem. So easy to remember, doctor. You know the music cassette series, T series. So DPT, DT, TT, typhoid, all they should not be frozen is the basic rule. T series is not meant for freezing. So the T series music is meant for freezing on the weekend, but not the T series of vaccines. So the national population policy tends to see by 2010 the NRR to come to 1. After 2010 we will revise it towards 2020, that's a different story. Now as per WHO, iodine deficiencies should be brought below 10% is considered to be the endemicity control value. So pneumonic plague, tetracycline is considered to be the chemoprophylactic agent of choice. Finally, our favorite question, without sand filter, we don't get that, what is that called, academic orgasm that we have faced one entrance exam in this country. So let us be very sure on rapid sand, slow sand. But let me tell you, doctor, the other day I was with one of my nephrology colleague. He is doing a epidemiological study on fluorosis in some of the districts of Andhra Pradesh. You know with whom he is working very closely? With the water department of the state of Andhra Pradesh. So is chlorination adequate or not? Is the borewell pump are increasing chances of fluorosis? So from the heights of DM entrance stopping and becoming a renal transplant expert, he has come down to the basic ground level of going to the Ongole, small villages, sitting on the side of the pond, taking a water sample and doing it. And he said that maybe this is more enjoyable than working in a transplant unit, because here you are with the people, here you are with problems, and here you are with the nature and the breeze of the village. Whereas in dialysis room, what will be there? One air condition will be buzzing and one ventilator will be sounding. So finally we become sick and psychotic by the time we finish super specialization. Finally from there you come down to the ground level. Let me tell you, a great cardiologist is not always placing a stunt, it is walking with a stethoscope to a village and identify the opening snap, mid-diastolic rumble, MS, initiating penicillin. That is the groundwork which is more challenging in nature, honestly. So the slow sand filter is simple to construct, cost of production is cheaper, and it will reduce the total bacterial count. Then how do you clean the slow sand filter? Generally it does not require cleaning. Replace the filter. Whereas if you take the rapid sand filter, it requires a frequent washing daily or weekly. So back washing is a thing which you use in rapid sand filter rather than the slow sand filter is what need to be remembered. Rabies, tetanus and Japanese encephalitis, we are the supreme court for the organism. There is no further transmission from us. Whereas teniasis, we are a district court. The file goes to the next organism and it perpetuates the cycle. Now if you take the Culex quinquefacitus, we very much use the mosquito larvicidal oil in order to basically control it. Now what does ORS basically contain? Potassium chloride of 1.5 grams which constitutes 20 milliequivalents per liter and sodium chloride of 2.6 grams. PQLI does not have the gross national product, all the remaining are a part of it. In paradoxical sleep, what do you find? There is a low muscle tone and there is a rapid low voltage EEG which is very classical of paradoxical sleep. Obviously in Addison's the BMR is decreased, whereas in all other conditions BMR will shoot. Suprachiasmatic nucleus will decide our morning sleeping and night reading habit. Then whenever we are having a pulmonary hyperventilation, there is a very little time for the oxygen transfer to occur in a pulmonary hyperventilating state. So that will affect the partial pressure of the oxygen and causes the fall of the PO2. Whereas any condition that lead to cyanosis like carbon monoxide poisoning or KCN poisoning will affect the saturation of the arterial oxygen. In anemia, neither the saturation nor PaO2 is affected. So that is the final story about it. Why athletes will have bradycardia, doctor? Because their vagal tone is very high. Lysyl oxidase contains the extracellular copper. What is Hartnupp's disease? There is a malabsorption of the neutral amino acids, particularly tryptophan, which is important for niacin. Hence they have pellagra-like lesions in those who are having the Hartnupp's disease due to the tryptophan deficiency is what need to be remembered. Adrenal cortex has a lot of vitamin C, we don't know why. Now insulin resistance, where do you see in acromegaly? Growth hormone excess leads to it. Sickle cell is an example of a point mutation. Now what is the auxiliary nerve root value? C5, 6 or even 7 you want to include. Luring in entrance exam. You want chocolate or you want to have biscuit? So kind of questions these are all. So you don't know. You'll be more depressed rather. Is this C5, 6, 7 is going to decide whether I am going to get or not. So tell me, doctor, what is your answer? C5, 6, 7 also. 7 also. Okay. Then Barr body is typically found in interface where generally chromosomes cannot be stained by light microscopy, but Barr body is still a hyperchromatic condensed chromatin found in case of the females during interface. What is carpal tunnel tendons? What constitutes carpal tunnel? Flexor digitorum profundus, superficialis, flexor pollicis longus, they are all the part of the carpal tunnel, not the corpus radialis is what need to be remembered. How many answered it as space of Dicey? Yeah, I also love to. Many times we prepare, while preparing we learn a lot. So that's the reason. I suddenly was thinking, is it not space of Dicey? Then I once more checked what are the other possibilities. So the space of Moll is the space between connective tissue stroma and the outermost hepatocytes of the hepatic lobule. Whereas if you say space of Dicey, it is between the fenestrated endothelium and the hepatocytes The space over here is basically called as the space of Dicey. There is a difference between the two. Carina is at the level of the T4 where there is a tracheal bifurcation, and urachal fistula is basically a manifestation of a persistent allantois is what need to be remembered. So once more I thank honestly our postgraduates for this wonderful endeavor. I wish every year you give me an opportunity to come to this great place of Usmania to be with all.